This week, Siskel and Ebert review Navy lawyers Tom Cruise and Demi Moore taking on Jack Nicholson's Marines in A Few Good Men. Michael Caine is Ebenezer Scrooge in The Muppet Christmas Carol. And Steve Martin is a cynical revival preacher in Leap of Faith.
I'll get them to drop conspiracy and conduct unbecoming. 12 years.
You haven't talked to a witness or looked at a piece of paper.
Pretty impressive, huh?
You're going to have to go deeper than that.
Tom Cruise is a Navy lawyer who has to be talked into doing his job by Demi Moore, his superior officer, in A Few Good Men. And that is one of 4 new movies we'll be reviewing this week on Siskel and Ebert, including The Muppet Christmas Carol. I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times.
I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune. Our first film is A Few Good Men, and it has more than a few good men involved in it. Rob Reiner directs Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson in a court-martial drama about who bears the ultimate responsibility for a Marine hazing incident that gets wildly out of hand when a young soldier dies. Cruise, in one of his best performances, and he's given many, plays a wise guy Navy lawyer assigned to defend the 2 soldiers who did the hazing and are now accused of murder. Here he offers his client a quick deal he's arranged.
We have a code, sir. Well, dippity-doo-dah. You and your code, plead not guilty. You'll be in jail for the rest of your life. Do what I'm telling you, you'll be home in 6 months. Do it, Harold. 6 months. It's nothing. It's a hockey season.
Cruise has 2 colleagues on the case, played by Demi Moore and Kevin Pollak. They argue with him to stay with the case and take it to trial.
Another lawyer won't be good enough. They need you. You know how to win. You know they have a case, and you know how to win. If you walk away from this now, you've sealed their fate.
Their fate was sealed the moment Santiago died.
Do you believe they have a case?
You and Dawson, you both live in the same dream world. It doesn't matter what I believe. It only matters what I can prove.
Cruise's eventual defense of the 2 soldiers will be that it was the base commander who indirectly gave the order to haze the young Marine.
And now you think you can get him to just say it? I think he wants to say that he made a command decision and that's the end of it. He eats breakfast 300 yards away from 4,000 Cubans that are trying to kill him.
And no one's going to tell him how to run his unit, least of all the Harvard mouth.
I need to shake him, put him on the defensive, and leave him right where he's dying to go.
And, of course, it's Jack Nicholson who plays the gung-ho Marine commanding officer, the centerpiece of the film, his mano-a-mano showdown with Cruise at the trial.
Son, we live in a world that has walls, and those walls have to be guarded by men with guns. Who's going to do it? You? You, Lieutenant Weinberg? I have a greater responsibility than you can possibly fathom. You weep for Santiago and you curse the Marines. You have that luxury. You have the luxury of not knowing what I know.
They're terrific together. The script of A Few Good Men offers few surprises, except one, and that is that Tom Cruise and Demi Moore do not have a love affair in the movie, and that's really refreshing. Also notable is that Tom Cruise more than holds his own against Jack Nicholson. Because of his looks, Tom Cruise is always underestimated as an actor, but against Paul Newman, Dustin Hoffman, and now Jack Nicholson, he proves they're equal. This movie is just good. It's not great, but Cruise is better than that. He's the reason to see A Few Good Men.
Well, I agree with you about Tom Cruise, and I also think that Jack Nicholson gives a very interesting performance in this movie, a very watchable performance. But I would zero in on something that you correctly said, and that is there are no surprises in this movie.
Right.
Not only are there any surprises in the general sense, but in particular, the script fatally undermines the key scene in the whole movie, which is Nicholson's big courtroom scene. And that's because in a scene that's set the night before, Tom Cruise correctly predicts and explains and outlines for his friends exactly what his courtroom strategy is going to be and what he expects Nicholson to do. Right. And then the next day in court, Nicholson, everything goes according to plan. Nicholson does exactly what was said. Now, why would a screenplay give away a surprise like that? Why didn't they figure we were smart enough that we'd just be able to see the courtroom scene and figure out for ourselves what it was that Cruise was trying to do, and then see if Nicholson falls for it or not? because by telling them about it in advance, it completely destroys that scene. I give the movie thumbs down because it doesn't know how to handle the climax.
Well, I think I probably would have been able to have predicted the climax, even if they had.
Yeah, but I mean, why do you want somebody in the movie to predict it for you? I mean, that way you can feel clever.
No. It is a predictable movie. I'm just surprised that you're voting thumbs down because I thought all the way through, I knew the story. All the way through, I was watching Cruise's character and watching him develop, and I thought that was interesting.
Not only do you know the story, but it's all within the first 20 minutes of this movie, you can figure out what the entire story is going to be, more or less. So then it's only performances, and it seems to me that if the performances had been linked to a screenplay that was a lot more interesting.
The screenplay was surprising for what it didn't do with the Demi Moore character. That's one thing you would have known.
That character was originally a man. I'm convinced of that, and they made it into a woman without rewriting it in any other way.
But that's great. I mean, wouldn't you expect the rewrite to include a love relationship? Sure you would.
I would expect it to include more of an awareness in the two people, that one was a male and one was a female. In this movie, they both seem to be unaware of that interesting
No,
fact.
I don't think so.
Okay, coming up next, Michael Caine is Scrooge in The Muppet Christmas Carol.
Jacob Marley.
To Mr. Scrooge, you'll be very merry and happy this day, I have no doubt. No doubt.
Hey, cheers.
God bless us, everyone.
Christmas in Victorian London with some little characters made out of felt and stuffing there. Our next movie is The Muppet Christmas Carol, and this is at least the 12th film version of the Charles Dickens classic, and the second just from the Walt Disney Company, who only a few years ago made an animated version starring Mickey Mouse. This time, Kermit the Frog has top billing as Bob Cratchit. Miss Piggy plays his wife, and getting top billing among the very few human actors in the film is Michael Caine. He wisely plays it very straight as Ebenezer Scrooge, while the Muppets cavort around him.
Oh, there goes Mr. Humbug, there goes Mr. Grimmins. If they gave a prize for beginning, the winner would be him.
When you really stop to think about it, this is a very gloomy story filled with gothic forebodings and dire consequences. And the addition of the Muppets is an interesting approach, allowing the Christmas Carol to lighten up a little bit. Here's a funny moment as Scrooge hears complaints about how cold his office is.
We get to the bookkeeper. Yeah, all of our pens have turned to icicles. Our assets are frozen.
How would the bookkeepers like to be suddenly?
Unemployed! This is my island in the sun.
I believe you've convinced them once again, Mr. Scrooge.
The ghosts of Christmas are Muppets in the movie, too, including the ethereal Ghost of Christmas Past.
I thank you, Spirit. I'm mortal, liable to fall.
I touch with my hands and you shall fly.
I was amused by the way the filmmakers solved logical difficulties. In the marriage of Kermit and Miss Piggy, for example, all of the boy children are frogs and all of the girl children are pigs.
Oh, Merry Christmas, girls. Merry Christmas, Peter. Merry Christmas.
Very few stories have been made into movies more often than A Christmas Carol, and so I have to be careful how I say this, but this is a pretty depressing story for Christmas time. Older children and grown-ups will understand that as a parable, they'll be happy that Scrooge is able to change. But little kids may wonder why a holiday movie spends so much time on chains and skeletons and tombstones and a guest appearance by the Grim Reaper. What I like in The Muppet Christmas Carol is the way the Muppets act as a comic counterpoint to the melancholy of the basic story. And the songs by Paul Williams help, too. So does Michael Caine, a very good actor who realizes that the only way to get out of this movie in one piece is to behave toward Kermit the Frog in exactly the same way he would have behaved toward Laurence Olivier.
I liked the movie less than you, Roger. The songs, there's one, the first song by with the Marley Brothers.
The Marley Brothers in Chains. That's a funny song.
But then there weren't any more. I didn't think there were any particularly good big laugh-out scenes with the Muppets, and I expected them, although I was glad to see my two favorites, Beaker and Bunsen Honeydew. They're kind of cute. But I thought it was really, the reason to watch the film, I think, is Michael Caine. I think he brought, with his performance, the qualities that you're talking about. Also, the film is very dark, and I think that may surprise kids who assume that it's going to be a sunnier picture. Literally, it is dark.
Yes, it is.
And I thought Caine's performance was worth watching. I don't think he was very well supported by the Muppets. You know, this is made after, obviously, Jim Henson's death, and I think some of the creativity has gone out.
It was directed by Brian Henson, who was Jim
Yeah.
Henson's son and who was involved in the Muppets right from the beginning. So I think that he knows all about the Muppets. You know, that point about the lighting is interesting. At one point, I was going to go ask the theater manager if there was something wrong with the bulb in the projector, because this movie is so dark. I mean, it looked more like Batman Returns than like a Muppet movie.
Yeah.
And even the colors of the Muppets were kind of subdued. But nevertheless, I did enjoy the film, enough to give it a marginal thumbs up anyway.
I'm marginally down.
Okay, coming up next, Steve Martin plays a traveling tent revival preacher. He's in for a big surprise in Leap of Faith.
Well, Jesus forgives you, now say hallelujah.
Sir, put your hands on the bus, feet apart.
A little cranky, aren't we?
What's he doing? Oh, going too far, as usual. Big surprise.
Whoa, gee, Lowell, you could at least bought me dinner first.
That's Steve Martin, along with his cohorts, in a traveling preacher revival show in the new drama Leap of Faith, a most enjoyable film that treads familiar ground. You don't expect it to endorse revivalists, do you? But it does offer original characters along the way. Steve Martin's chief assistant is played by Deborah Winger, one of our finest actresses, and it's great to see her back on film. He works the tent. She's behind the scenes, feeding him information that his troops have gleaned from eavesdropping earlier on the crowd.
The white shirt, back problem.
And you, sir, believe in the Lord and cure your backache.
Same section, yellow shirt, hearing problem.
And you, sir, in the yellow shirt, come on up on stage.
Hearing problem. Section 2, the blue-haired lady. She's got arthritis.
And you too, ma'am, come on up on stage.
A problem for Martin and Winger comes in the form of a smart sheriff played by Liam Neeson, who knows a phony when he sees one. Winger sticks up for Martin, even though we suspect she likes the sheriff.
All he's doing is selling fairy tales to a bunch of people who thank him for it. And the last thing he needs is a judgmental ass like you throwing his past up in his face.
Still, the sheriff does try to expose Martin right in front of his revival customers, but Martin quickly rises to the challenge.
I hung out in bars. And I hot-wired cars. I grew up mistreated, so I lied and I cheated. I learned hard crime, and I served hard time.
Steve Martin is excellent as the preacher. He's a modern, funky motorcycle riding guy, not the middle-aged TV evangelist with a pompadour hairdo, and that's a fresh approach. Also, Deborah Winger's character is a real bonus. She's smart enough to know that she's been running the con so long that she's probably conned herself out of ever really falling in love. And there is a big surprise in the story, but it isn't such a big surprise. It's the liveliness of the characters in Leap of Faith that make it a memorable movie. Thumbs up for me.
I liked it too, Gene. I also like the way that they show the technical and carny tricks that go on behind the scenes when the evangelist knows all kinds of secrets about that woman in the red dress in the third row. And we know from having read newspapers that those are tricks that some of these faith healers do use, in which they have inside information, and they may be healing people who may, in fact, have been only suffering from an inability to say that they weren't really sick in the first place. There is one flaw in this movie, and that is that I feel it doesn't really have an ending. The last scene of the film is extremely lame. You sit there in your seat saying, is that it? Is it over? Is that all there is? And you walk out, and you really have to think back how much you enjoyed the whole film to get over that immediate reaction of the downer, the non-existent ending.
But there is a series of good characters. Plus, there's a lot of good music in the film. He travels with this chorus. They're very enjoyable. Lita Davidovich is the local waitress.
That's right.
She's an interesting character, possibly involved with Steve Martin. The characters are all really good.
Okay, when we come back, Passion Fish, about an actress who's paralyzed and lashes out against everything, including the nurse, who is her only link to the world.
You get back here. I want to go back inside. Chantel! It's uphill!
What did they tell you about me at the agency?
You're T10.
What else?
You have your own money, so the pay was better than the state cases.
Did they tell you I was a bitch?
That's Mary McDonnell in Passion Fish as a soap opera actress who's paralyzed from the waist down in a traffic accident and comes back home to Louisiana to drink and wallow in self-pity. Alfre Woodard plays her hired companion, a woman who is also trying to recover from her own recent past, and it's rough going between the two strong-willed women. Woodard needs the job but isn't going to play games, and McDonald needs help much more desperately than she's ever willing to admit.
That's what I can do. Now push me back inside.
Push yourself back.
Don't pull that motivational crap on me. I want to go back in.
I'll have lunch ready when you get there.
David Strathern plays a local Cajun that McDonald had a crush on in high school. Now he's a handyman who, to McDonald's surprise, has been hired to work on her house.
It's raining, right?
Yeah, it's me.
Wow. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm older.
Woodard also encounters a good-looking local guy. He is Bondi Curtis Hall, a horse trainer who is interested in the pretty new face in town, even if it belongs to a woman who says she is completely uninterested in romance.
My real name is Ulysses. Like Ulysses in the mythology. Ma mère ain't beaucoup les classes. Oh, what's your name?
Chantel.
Chantel what?
Chantel has got no time for French-talking Louisiana cowboys.
Passion Fish was written and directed by John Sayles, one of a handful of American filmmakers who goes on year after year, all by himself, making intelligent, committed films from his heart without a lot of calculation about the profits. He made City of Hope a year ago about corruption in a big eastern city, and now here is this completely different story about two women trying to grow and adapt and learn to deal with one another. This is not just another one of those uplifting formula movies about somebody who has a handicap and discovers how to be courageous. It's not that story that we've seen so often before. It's a particular original story about some very complicated and angry people, and it sticks with them right down to the not quite bitter end.
Well, Roger, you hit on exactly what I liked about this film, and that is that you expect, when you see a white woman in a wheelchair and a black woman as her nurse, you expect that the white woman is going to learn soul, if you will, from this is real movie cliche.
Pushing Miss Crazy, right?
Okay. Very good. That is what you expect, and he doesn't give it to us. These characters are both richer than that, and then the supporting group, including the woman's father. Alfred Woodard's father is a wonderful character, and that's very complicated. The writing, I've talked about this before. When writing gets to the 6th and 7th character and is deep and complicated, that's exciting. It's exciting for us to see. It's very rare in the
movie. This movie is like a criticism of all those formula movies about people overcoming whatever bad cards they've been dealt. It's not. It is about overcoming in a way, but it's also about reality.
It's about them, and that's one of the issues in their life.
Yes, that's right. Very good. Coming up next, our video pick of the week, a British film that helped to define the term angry young man.
Siskel and Ebert's video pick of the week, brought to you by Orville Redenbacher, the first and last name in popcorn.
On our video segment this week, I have what I think is a real special choice. I'd like you to journey back with me to my college days when I was just discovering how good the movies really could be. I was tired of all of the exploitation pictures and the canned Hollywood cliches, and then in the local art theater I discovered foreign films, including a group of angry black and white dramas from England. These were called, in many cases, the Angry Young Men films, and I think the film that made the greatest impact on me was The Loneliness of the Long-Distance Runner, directed by Tony Richardson, starring a skinny, gawky, and tense young actor named Tom Courtenay. He played a Borstal boy, an inmate in a reform school for young men, and it was his mission every day to survive that experience without having his soul crushed. To get away, he ran and ran and ran until the school governor decided to show him off in a race against the rich kids from an exclusive nearby school.
Good luck, then. Oh. Good luck to you. You're going to need it, mate. You haven't got a chance.
The Loneliness of the Long-Distance Runner is one of the best and strongest British films ever made, and it's available on tape, and now it's new on Laserdisc. I imagine a lot of people have never heard of this movie. It's the kind of film, though, with so much passion, with such a powerful starring performance, that it becomes a reference point. You can measure other movies by it. The Loneliness of the Long-Distance Runner is my video pick this week. I recommend you rent or buy it. And now let's take another look at the movies we reviewed on the show. A split decision on A Few Good Men. Gene was especially impressed by Tom Cruise's work. I liked it too, but thought the screenplay telegraphed its punches. A split decision on The Muppet Christmas Carol. I enjoyed the Muppet version of the Dickens classic, but Gene only liked the human character played by Michael Caine. 2 thumbs up for Leap of Faith with Steve Martin and Deborah Winger in the story of a faith healer. And finally, 2 big thumbs up for Passion Fish, the tough, intelligent John Sayles movie about 2 women trying to find themselves and to help each other. And that one is really, I think, the kind of film that might get lost in the Christmas rush, and yet it shouldn't get lost in the Academy Award rush.
It will get lost. If you see Passion Fish, get to it quickly, because you know, it's not gonna, it has no chance to play in a lot of theaters with all these big holiday movies coming out now. People missed a wonderful film in City of Hope. We should put that on our video pick someday.
Yeah.
By John Sayles. This is a very good film, too. That's it for this week. Next week, we'll be back with another batch of holiday movies, including Toys, starring Robin Williams as the only man who can save a toy factory from destruction, and Forever Young, with Mel Gibson searching for a lost love after sleeping for 50 years. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.
Lady Stetson, the spirit of the West, the power of a woman, the fragrance that captures it all. Lady Stetson, it's how the West was won. It's America's favorite jelly bean, Jelly Belly, now appearing at theaters and video stores with good taste. Jelly Belly beans, try them, you'll love them. Armatron Now, the best priced quality watch in America, is also beautiful to look at. For men, for women, Armatron, the intelligent choice. For the man who's good at making a woman feel great, Pierre Cardin, Man's Cologne.